What's going on, guys? Today is going to be my second video going through my 2026 season previews of the NFL season. Make sure if you like the video, if you want to see a video about your favorite team, you subscribe, you comment down below, and let's get right into it. Today we're going to be going over the Atlanta Falcons. Now, last year on offense, the Falcons actually had an okay time. They weren't a team that turned the ball over a lot. They ran the ball very well behind Bijan Robinson, and they got a career best year out of Kyle Pitts last year. He was a second-team All-Pro at tight end, 88 receptions, 928 yards. Both of those led the team. And really, the combination of Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, while it wasn't a great combo and it didn't add up to being a great quarterback, it was a quarterback that if you just put the two stats together, it was passable. But that's the unfortunate thing, is that even in an NFC South last year that was won with only 8 games by the Carolina Panthers, passable was not going to win this division. Passable was not going to get this team to the playoffs. And we saw why they did what they did in this past offseason, bringing in Tua Tagovailoa and just trying to improve the passing game in general. Because this is an offense that, without the quarterback, is probably top 5 or at least top 10 in terms of talent. And they just need the quarterback to be accurate and be someone who can keep the offense efficient. Going through the offseason additions for this offense, you can see a few obvious names. One in Tua Tagovailoa, who I already mentioned, coming over from the Miami Dolphins. They acquired they acquired 2 tackles from the Kansas City Chiefs, one via trade with Wanye Morris and one via free agent contract in Jawan Taylor. This team also added Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus to shore up the wide receiver room. And they also add Zachariah Branch in the draft this year, a guy who just slots in, I think, as a solid depth piece at wide receiver, a possible future starter or someone who can just contribute to the offense in the future. But with how many names are already in this skill group, not even just looking at pure receivers, it's going to be hard to see somebody like Branch or even somebody like Jahan Dotson really get solid opportunities to contribute, just because there's already big name players within this offense. The losses for the Atlanta Falcons, while I don't think there's that many that really affect them. Kirk Cousins going to Las Vegas, he wasn't going to be the quarterback going forward anyways. Tyler Algier going to Arizona is probably the most impactful loss, although this team did sign Brian Robinson, who you just saw on the previous slide, so I don't know if it's going to be a huge loss for Tyler Algier. You wonder if Brian Robinson in this same exact offense can do some of the similar things that Tyler Algier did. I think the biggest loss, and it's a guy who didn't even play in 2025, is the retirement of Caleb McGarry. This is a guy who for the past 2 years has really battled knee injuries and has had setbacks. And just after only 6 years, I believe, he's deciding to retire. I believe he started somewhat like 90 or 92 games over his 5 years of actually playing with the Atlanta Falcons. So it's definitely sad to see somebody like him go. He wasn't a Pro Bowler, wasn't an All-Pro, but he was a very good tackle in the NFL, and he's going to be missed. Now, I think my 3 storylines that I would fixate on for the Atlanta Falcons in 2026. The first one is who's going to win the lefty off, aka the quarterback one competition in Atlanta. Whether it's Michael Penix or whether it's Tua Tagovailoa. I don't remember the last team we've ever seen with a quarterback competition between 2 lefties. It's a new one for me. It's probably a new one for a lot of people. My second storyline is how much change is going to happen with Kevin Stefanski being the head coach and de facto play caller. I think hasn't really had a chance to really develop quarterbacks. There was Baker Mayfield for a short time with Kevin Stefanski, but it's really not been a solid option for him at quarterback in his time in Cleveland. And I think these are probably the two best quarterbacks he's had a chance to coach, and he's gonna take full advantage of the fact that Tua Tagovailoa, whether you love him or hate him, he has a superpower in his accuracy, and I think that's something that both the Atlanta Falcons offense could use some of. That the Falcons quarterbacks last year only boasted about a 60% completion percentage rate. That's probably well below the top tier quarterbacks. And so getting somebody like Tua Tagovailoa in who's going to be accurate, who's going to hit his spots, it's not just with the addition of Kevin Stefanski, but with Tua Tagovailoa as well. The hope is that that makes the offense soar. And really, that leads me to my third point, is that this offense is more than talented enough to either make a playoff run or just be competitive in every single game this year. They're not going to be a team putting up 30 to 40 points a game, but they should be a team that's scoring touchdowns and is going up and down the field with relative ease, in my opinion. On to the defense now for Atlanta. This was a team that was really led by their young playmakers. James Pierce and Xavier Watts were two guys who were in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. And Jesse Bates in just another perfect season by him, really all-pro second team. He was one of the best safeties in the NFL last year, and he's continued that, whether he's been in Cincinnati or been in Atlanta. He's just been an incredible player at that safety position, and he, like Watts and Pierce, was one of the leaders of this team. Now, they weren't a great defense. You can see in the stats, 24th in rushing, 13th in passing, and 19th in scoring overall. But, with it being a very young defense, Jalen Walker, you have guys like Brandon Dorless, an interior pass rusher, and you just have young players really all around this defense. And with the additions that I'm going to talk about here in a second, this is a young defense that's looking to get better every single year. There's really no free agency ad I think I would really highlight. I think some of the names like Christian Harris coming over from Houston or Samson Ebicom coming over from Indianapolis, those are two young players who really haven't had I shouldn't say Ebicom is a young player. He's a veteran player. But Christian Harris is a young player who has had his moments, whether it's playoff games. He had a pick six a couple of years ago against Cleveland. These are just players who are going to be solid rotational pieces, I think, for Atlanta. They traded for Sidney Brown, who, like the previous two players I just mentioned, he could be a starter, but I think he's going to be a guy who is key for the rotation of the defensive backs. The big addition, I think, is Clemson cornerback Avion Terrell, obviously AJ Terrell's brother. They drafted him in the second round out of Clemson, and he's possibly the guy opposite of AJ Terrell, or he's the guy in the future replacing AJ Terrell. I think either way, he's a guy who has a bright future for Atlanta, and he's another young player that this secondary and this defense in general is going to be able to rely on for years to come. Not too many losses in free agency or the offseason this year for Atlanta. D. Alford signed with Buffalo on a 3-year, $15.7 million deal. Other than that, Atlanta, like I said, really was not losing much in the offseason this year. And now my three storylines for the defense this year, it's the James Pierce off-field situation without really getting into it much because I don't really want to get into it. There's a chance that he's going to be able to play if he has, I guess you would say, appropriate behavior leading up to the season and during the season. He's going to play, and there's going to be no hitches to that. But it's just always a tricky situation when you're in something like this, whether you're the team, whether you're the player, whether you're, whoever you are involved in this. You just want it to kind of go away without there being too many consequences. I don't want to say that as if like I'm trying to come off like he shouldn't have any, but that's just kind of the hope from Atlanta's standpoint. Will this team be better against the run? They were, like you just saw in the beginning slide, they were 24th against the run, and they, I believe, were 22nd in yards per attempt allowed. So they just need to be better if they want to be a team that's going to make the playoffs or win this division. This looks like a really good defense. I highlighted the young players. I highlighted the veteran players. At every position, this team has solid players and guys that can be winning, can contribute to a winning formula, I think. They have a pass rush. They have secondary. They have linebackers. They have really everything that you want from a good defense, and you wonder now, the defensive coordinator was really one of the few coaches that's a holdover from the previous coaching staff, so you wonder if they're going to be better or worse last year. I would think that they're going to be better, just with another year for the young players to get more acclimated to the NFL, to get better in the offseason. I think this defense is going to be even better than last year, and last year they were already decent. Now, this year's schedule compared to last year, it could lead to a very similar situation that Atlanta was in last year, where they had a chance to win the division, and it came down to their last few games. They're going to have 3 divisional opponents in their final 3 weeks, and the previous 2 games before that, they're going to have Cleveland and Washington. There's also going to be games earlier in the year, like going to Pittsburgh, having Chicago, Baltimore, San Francisco at home for a 3-game stretch. I don't think Atlanta fares well in many of the games, but Atlanta's one of those teams, I think, where if they just are better than they were last year, if offensively they're more efficient and defensively they're just better, they win some of these games that we probably don't expect them to, like, possibly Kansas City at home. If they're playing Cincinnati at home, they might win that game. If they're better than the product that they were last year, they're going to win games that we don't expect them to. And, the schedule is tough. They have tough road games. They have tough games at home. But I think this is a team with a new coaching staff, with a new quarterback probably, and with an improved defense. They're going to be better than last year, and they're probably going to win some games, like I said, we don't expect them to. Now, my final prediction for this team, I see a floor of 6-11. If this quarterback experiment with Tua Tagovailoa and Michael Penix doesn't work, that's the ultimate. It's going to set your bar. If your quarterback is not good, you're not going to be a good team. Now, on the other hand, I think this has a chance to be one of the best teams in the NFC, possibly the NFC South champion. If Tua Tagovailoa is efficient and he makes this offense efficient and this defense is improved like I think they're going to be, this is going to be one of the best teams in the NFC, and a team that's possibly vying for a Super Bowl chance. If you're a 12-5 team, you're probably winning your division, getting a few home games in the playoffs, and you just kind of have to see from that point. You have to make the playoffs to really have a chance, and I think that this team, with a number 1 receiver, with a really good tight end, with possibly the best running back in the NFL, offensively, there should be no reason that this team doesn't make the playoffs. It's going to all hinge on whether or not this defense is improved like I think they are. That's going to be it for the video today. If you liked it, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe, and comment down below. If you want to see your favorite team have a preview done about them, make sure you leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video.